All right, YouTube, it is Mr. Mean coming at you this Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. The little man is in bed, the wife is resting. It is finally time to whip out a video. This is one I've been wanting to get to for a while. So as always, like and subscribe. Let's grow the Meanie Army. Remember, at the end of the video, I'll go through housekeeping and everything. So we'll talk about all that stuff at the end of the video. So what is today's video du jour? Well, it's one that I've been wanting to get to. It's been on my list. I got the book about a week ago, and I finally got a chance to read a little bit of it. I've read up on it. I really like what I'm reading. It's Low Fantasy Gaming Deluxe Edition from Pickpocket Press. Now, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out and say thanks to the guys over at Pickpocket Press. I backed... It was a little snafu on my part, and they were super cool about it. I had thought I had backed Low Life 2090, which is going to be a 5th edition cyberpunk setting made by Pickpocket Press. And unfortunately, I decided to back the low fantasy gaming stretch goal or goal. And so they started sending out, and I got all these emails from Pickpocket Press saying, hey, Low Fantasy Gaming is available on Drive-Thru RPG. Here's the cost to, for the print on demand copy, your cost. And I was like, I wanted the cyberpunk stuff. So I reached out to the guys at Pickpocket Press through Kickstarter, and they were super nice. And the guy said, "Yeah, you made a boo-boo, but I tell you what I'll do. I'll add you to that tier, and you'll get the PDFs when the book is ready, and you'll be able to buy it at cost, just as if that is the tier I wanted to back. So in essence, I'm kind of sort of getting a free tier." But not really. I'm not quite sure. I think I am. I think I'm getting something good. Either way, I'm going to look at it positive because that's the way I like to look at things. And so I had the money in my Drive-Thru RPG account. So I got this, and I also got the Adventure Framework. Adventure Framework Collection #1, which is pretty much written for low fantasy gaming, but you could use it for any RPG. Now, not a review. That's going to be a separate review when I get back from vacation. Remember, starting on Friday of this week, I'll be gone for 2 weeks on vacation. So, unfortunately, just taking a little non-electronic break. Unplug and just some me and family time. So everything's okay. Nothing's wrong with the channel. Everything's good. My job is good. Just taking a little bit of time off. But yeah, so anyway, so I'll be unplugged for those 2 weeks, basically is what I'm saying. But tonight, we're going to look at low fantasy gaming and why I think this is the D&D 5th edition killer. At least for me. It may not be for you. I've said it once. I'll say it 100 times on the channel. I'm not a huge fan of 5th edition D&D. I don't like the mechanics. I don't like the way the game plays as a GM. Now, as a player, I'm playing in 2 different 5th edition campaigns that my friend Brian is running, and I'm having an absolute blast. Although I haven't actually got to play in the 2nd edition or the 2nd campaign. But my point being is that I'm just not a huge fan of 5th edition from a GM's point of view. 3.5 was fine. I didn't mind running 3.5, but I didn't really like that either. The very, static hit, be hit, be hit, subtract hit points, and I get it. It's, the toil of battle and everything. It's never jived with me. I've always looked at games outside of like the D&D realm, and that's what the focus of my channel is. And so when I saw this and not knowing really what I was backing, and of course, I was dissatisfied with the other Cyberpunk 5th edition rule set that I had kickstarted, and very, very, very dissatisfied with it. Once I physically got it and read it and got to play with it a little bit, I was very unhappy. And so when I saw Low Life and I saw what they were doing and what they proposed, via the Kickstarter, I was very excited. And so that's why I backed it. And of course, I wind up backing this instead, which had already gone through a Kickstarter and was already available. It's already won some drive-through awards and everything. So it's well established. I think 2019 is the copyright on this. It went to Kickstarter. Let me see if I can check real quick. Yeah, it doesn't say. But I think it was 2019. But either way, the book is gorgeous. This is the print-on-demand version from Drive-Thru RPG. Stephen J. Gradzicki, hopefully I said that right, is the writer and the chief head honcho behind this. So what is, and by the way, I love their logo, and then the Pickpocket Press logo is just as impressive. So kudos to design. It's a hardback book. It is laid out. It's a parchment style looking paper, but it's nice and thick. It is stitch sewn and glued, so I don't think it's going to fall apart, at least no time soon. And it does lay flat when you hold it open. As you can see, I'm laying it flat right there, so you can see the spine bend and divot how it's supposed to, so that's awesome. On top of that, let's do what I always do. First, I like to talk about the art of the book. I'm not a fan. It's a lot of royalty-free art or press art that you can buy from, like a wholesale or whatever you want to call it. I think they call it royalty-free art. I understand why he did it. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, it's not for me. And the reason I say that is the art style is all over the place. I mean, you have, art like this, which looks pretty cool, very Conan-esque. And then you go to art like this, and this. And it doesn't maintain the same theme. And it kind of breaks the immersion of reading the book. It's not bad art, don't get me wrong. It's just stock fantasy art. And in fact, I've seen a couple of images in here that are also in a couple of other RPGs from third party or indie press guys that do their art. So the placement of the art is fine. The texture of the art, if I can use that word, is fine. It's just, it doesn't grab me. It doesn't tell me this is low fantasy gaming. And not that that's a bad thing. It's just my interpretation. Other than that, that's my only pet peeve with this book, to tell you the truth, is I'm just not a fan of the art direction. I understand why they went that way. It's a matter of cost. If you've ever published your own book, you know that getting artists and getting copyright-free art, for your book is expensive. It is not cheap. So I get it. For me, it's a detraction. It's the con of it's the only con of this book that I don't like. And I shouldn't say don't like, because that's a harsh word. The art doesn't bother me. It's just not to my liking. It doesn't set the tone of the book, because I really think everything else in here is top notch. So what is it about this that I like? Well, one of the first and foremost things is I just like the layout of the book. First and foremost, this is the Dungeon Master Guide, the Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook all in one. You don't have to buy any other books. So if you've never played a role-playing game before and you've seen D&D and you go, oh my God, I gotta fork out $150+ maybe at best $90 if you find them on sale at $30 a pop, which is hard to do, but you could. If you look hard enough, maybe used copies or whatever on Amazon or eBay or whatever, you got to buy 3 books. This is one. This is all you need. You take this to your game session. Each one of your friends buys a copy, and you're done. Everybody's got all the same rules. You're good to go. Or you just get the one book and you pass it around. The character sheets are free on their website. And they've got really nice form fillable ones. They have a very nice GM screen as well that's printable. I don't know if they make a hard copy GM screen. I didn't notice that. I should have looked a little closer, but I didn't. But I do have the printable copy. I did buy it. So you can get that. And it's pretty cool. And I think it's maybe $5 or $10 on Drive-Thru RPG. But anyway, aside from that, what has this game got going for it? Well, aside from you don't have to buy 3 books if you're the GM, that's amazing. second thing, as a player, you don't have to buy more than one book. There's everything you need is in here. Now they do have a companion. I do not have the companion yet. I have the PDF. I don't have the physical book. I'm going to order the physical book when I'm back from holiday, because I want a physical copy of it, because I think this may be my new go-to fantasy game, at least as a one-shot for my players. I think they might enjoy it. And of course, with COVID and everything going on right now, we have to play remotely. So it does, I believe there's Roll20 support, and I believe there might even be Foundry, VTT, or Fantasy Ground Unity. But even if there's not, there's more core, and there's the Foundry generic system, or Roll20's generic system you can use. If you just want to use a map and tokens, you could do that. So you've got options, is what I'm saying. But mechanic-wise, why do I think this is the D&D killer? Well, first of all, you're only going to level 12. So there's not a whole ton of complex things to remember. Each character, even if all 4, 5, 6 of your players want to play fighters, you're going to have 6 different fighters because of the optimization and the way you build a character in this game. So you can have differences, and at levels 3, 6, 9, and 12, you get to choose abilities that you can go to anything, really. So it really opens up to customization and the way you can build your character and the cool things you can do with it. So you can't go wrong there. The other thing I like, it's a roll under system. It's a D20 game, OGL, but you roll under. And a lot of people may be confused by that, but I like that. I like that it's not the standard D20. Oh my God, I got to get a 20, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I like that it's a roll under system. Bonuses will add to the attribute. There's not a ton. There's a couple of skills, but you don't have a separate skill roll. Everything is an attribute roll. Speaking of attributes, so when you have a skill, it just adds a simple +1 to your attribute. So if you have lock picking, you're going to add +1 to your dexterity. So if your dexterity is a 12, now it's a 13. You need to roll a 13 or less on a d20, plus or minus any modifiers that the GM assigns you. So awesome. The other thing I like, there's not 400 pages of magical items. You want a +1 magical sword? Fine. You go find somebody that can craft it. That in itself can be an adventure and or a quest. And you roll some dice, or the GM can roll the dice secretly and say, okay, it's going to take 6 weeks to make this sword for you. At level 1, or at the base level of the sword, it's going to give you a +1, or maybe what other modifiers you want. And there's a small chart that you can look at, or the GM can give you options. But then when you hit level 7, that bonus is going to go up. So now that +1 becomes a +2. So your magical items kind of grow with you. So your armor, your swords, your rings, your necklaces, whatever, cloaks, all that stuff kind of glows with you. So it takes out the greed factor of trying to find more magical items. And they give you rules on how to create your magical items, because it's called low fantasy gaming. So guess what? There's not a ton of +1 magical swords floating around anyway. So when you do get one, it's a major thing, which is cool because you feel even more empowered in the setting. You feel, wow, I can do anything now. I've got a +1 sword. And that's a big deal when, you're having to roll equal to or less than on a d20. The higher you get that attribute number up to, the easier it is for you to do things. The other major thing that I like is there is a luck pool. And you can use that. Certain skill rolls and or attribute rolls will be available to use your luck. And what's nice about that is you can do all kinds of things with it, but you also get a reroll pool. And of course, every time you use your luck, it's going to go down by 1. And then when you take a long rest, if I remember correctly, it's a long rest, your luck pool only increases by 1. So it's a diminishing return. And then the other cool thing they do is a short rest can be a couple of minutes, and you can take a number of those short rests throughout the day to keep the game going. To recover some hit dice and maybe refresh some spell-like abilities and or abilities that your fighter, your acolyte, whatever you may have, your monk. I love the monk class in here, by the way, but monk is a favorite of mine in just about every RPG that I play. But anyway, And then a long rest can take weeks. So obviously you're not going to do a long rest until you go back to town and you're at an inn in your comfort, and or you're at a designated campsite, so to speak, like maybe a soldier's encampment or something like that, where you can be safe. There's a lot of charts in here, but don't be intimidated by it. They're all informative and help the game along. The bestiary is pretty good, and like I said, if you pick up any of the other supplements like the companion or the adventure framework, there's going to be more critters and monsters in there for you. The companion also has a new class called the Scion. Your races are pretty much, it's human is the default. That's pretty much what they want you to play. But there's dwarves, elves, and I believe there's another one called the it's basically a beast man. Half scorn is what they're called, and they're your default beast man. So if someone wants to play the minotaur looking dude or a lizard like dude, they can do that. But for the most part, they assume that you're going to be human, maybe an elf or a dwarf. And there's an option, for those. And then your classes. This is what I really like. They do some cool things. Each class has unique features. Like I said, there's a pool. Instead of feats, like in 5th edition, you have feats. And at every, I think it's 4th level, you can get a feat in D&D. Well, every 3 levels here, and remember, we only go up to level 12, so 3, 6, 9, 12, you're going to be able to pick a unique feature. And then that feature, it's basically a feat. But again, as long as you meet the requirements for it, and it's pretty cut and dry. It's not like uber super like God, I gotta do a flow chart to figure this out. It's pretty simple. You choose these abilities at 3, 6, 9, and 12, and it defines your character. It makes them different. So you can be a magic wielding swordsman. It doesn't penalize you. There's an artificer. There is black powder weapons in the game. I personally, when I run it, will not have those because I just don't like guns in my game. But you can have mechanical, like a chain sword. There's a cool picture here of a guy wielding like a chain halberd, I guess I would call that. But yeah, and they have limited use, but you can make them. You can only ever make one, but that's the artificer. So that's one of the character classes. Let's see. Let me go to the index here and do the classes. So your class is Artificer, Barbarian, Bard, Cultist, a basically magic-wielding class, only one of 2. A Fighter, a magic user, pretty cut and dry there, arcane-based. Your Monk, your Ranger, and your Rogue. And like I said, the Compendium is going to add the Scion, which is a 3rd type of magic user, but it's powers of the mind. One of the other cool things that this game does is initiative is you can do your standard initiative where you make a d20 check and you add your dexterity to it, or you roll under your dexterity, plus or minus any modifiers you may have, like if you have surprise or whatever. If you make the roll, you go before the monsters. If you fail the roll, you go after the monsters. So the GM doesn't have to roll initiative for the monsters. Their initiative is kind of static. So it's either you're going to make your dex check and you're going to go before the monsters, and if you fail, you're going to go after the monsters. Cut and dry. I like that, and I would use that, and I probably will use that. But they have another mechanic for initiative that I really think is awesome. And it's kind of very similar to how Savage Worlds does it. Is you have a deck of cards. Each hero gets a card. They can pick out whatever card they want. They want to be the Black Joker? Fine, be the Black Joker. The Wizard wants to be the Red Joker? Fine, the Wizard is the Red Joker. You want to make your evil bad guy the head henchman? You want to make him the Ace of Spades? Perfect. Your lowly Bard wants to be the 2 of Diamonds? Sure. And then your lovable Rogue wants to be the Ace of Hearts? Fine. And then all the, maybe say the mad crazy goblins are all going to be like 10 of diamonds. So you put them all in, you make that little deck right there, you shuffle it up, and then you draw, and whoever comes up, that's who goes. I think that's awesome. And to be honest, you can keep that static. So, that fighter can always be the black joker and the magic user can always be the red joker, and then they just, every session you put those cards aside when you're out of combat or till next session, and you just pull them out again when you're ready. And you could use any kind of cards. You could use tarot cards, you could use, you know, different types of poker cards. I've got some fantasy themed poker decks. I've got some Viking themed poker decks. Any of those cards would work great. I've got Malifaux cards for the miniatures game. Those cards would work amazing too if that's what you're into. So the sky's the limit there. So I love that flexibility. The other thing is the next touch point is what makes this really unique is it's baked into the title, low fantasy gaming. Magic is nothing to be trifled with, whether it's divine magic or arcane magic. When you only have 2 magic classes, you have the cultist, which pretty much sounds exactly what you think it is. It is a cultist, whether the gods are good or bad. That's, you know, on your world terms or whatever. But then the flip side is magic users draw on, you know, magic, and it is it's not a good thing, to be honest. Magic can jack you up. You can cast magic, but every time you cast a spell, so like basically your first spell is roughly free, and so you put a 1 in front of you. But the next time you cast a spell, it now becomes a 2, and now you need to make a roll, and you need to roll anything but equal to that or less. If you roll lower than a 2 on your second spell, then something bad happens, and there's a chart you roll on it, and some of it can be kind of benign, or some of it can even be pretty good, but most of it generally is bad. So then you cast that third spell, that number becomes a 3. Now if you roll a 3 or less, and it goes up and up. So spoofing magic is not good, because eventually you're going to roll on that chart, and that's where things can have the potential to go really bad. Attribute modifiers are a +4 up to a -3. You can go higher. 19 is the highest attribute you can start with, and then you can go up from there as your character levels up. They give you some alternative methods for rolling dice or using an array if you want. The preset array is 16, 14, 13, 11, 10, 8, and 7. Or you can, you know, they like I said, they give you a bunch of different options. So the other cool thing about magic, aside from, you know, the horrible chart that you're going to have to roll on if you screw up, is, let me see, what is the chart? Here's the chart right here, but I want to get the actual name. Dark and Dangerous. So yeah, you can screw up. The other cool thing about magic users, and I really like this because it really kind of sort of takes a lot of their teeth away from them, which should be. Magic should be very mysterious and very dangerous, and if you're going to play a magic user, there are consequences. But the flip side is you're also kind of sort of very powerful. If you take damage in the round that you're trying to cast a spell, you can no longer cast that spell. It's that simple. So those mages that, you know, I want to use a sword and I want to run up into combat, that's great, but just be aware that if you try to cast a spell and you get hit, your spell is interrupted, and you got to restart it. And if it's a multi-action spell, you got to start from scratch. So it would suck that I don't think there's too many spells in the game like that, but let's just say it's a 3-action spell and you take a hit on the second action. Guess what? You got to start all over. So very intuitive, very neat, very clean as far as I'm concerned magic system. The Dark and Dangerous chart is got all kinds of nifty things. Like, let's say you rolled a 50. Devil eyes. Your eyes turn white, black, or another color for 1d12 months. So, you know, that can affect you when you go into town, when you deal with maybe there's an errant witch hunter in the area. You know, this can have all kinds of effect. They also have the same kind of chart for the divine spellcasters, called rebukes. Now I will say I love the GM section. That's the image on the GM section, and I think that is amazing. So super cool there. Tons of useful information for the GM. Random encounters, weather charts, you know, what happens, what kind of people are you going to run into. a full bestiary, NPCs and higher. You can get hirelings in this, harking back to original D&D and AD&D, where you got camp followers and things like that, and you can get backgrounds and quirks for them, and they can do things for you. The bestiary is pretty solid. It is pretty cut and dry. There's a section on war if you wanted to do huge battles. And then, of course, there's not a lot of art in the monster manual and I get this, they're trying to put a lot of things in here, so they have to save on space. But the nice part is all of your monsters have a hit die, and that's basically kind of like second edition D&D, where you went by the hit die of the monster. So, like, they'll give you the number appearing, the armor class, the hit dice, the attacks, and what the damage is for those, and if they have a special ability for a natural 19 or 20. In that 19, the target is knocked prone. And then it gives you their luck pool, because some monsters obviously will be able to adjust their die rolls as well. So it comes into it, as everybody. It's a neat game. Monsters have recharge. Let's see here what they say about the Nat 19. On a natural 19 attack roll, most monsters cause a special effect of some kind. Note that the effects are separate to minor exploits, see page 73, which monsters may attempt at any time, just like PCs. So that's another thing. There's exploits, and the book goes in to tell you what those exploits are and how you do them. And the game rewards you for doing things like that. So it's almost like panache, or flair or anything like that. It's being descriptive. The game really pushes you to role play, not role play. It's not about rolling the dice, although that's how we get things done. But the game really emphasizes you want to tell a story, you want to get into character, you want to play the handsome, dashing rogue, or you want to play the lovable bard who's clumsy, and you can do that with this game. Luck is amazing. It allows you to recover. Speaking of recovery, this is one of the great things. You have your hit points just like D&D, and you lose hit points. Your armor makes you harder to hit. Pretty cut and dry. Shields work. But when you go to half hit points, you become staggered. And there's penalties and there's rules in here for what staggered does to you and how it affects you as a character and or monsters, because they are subject to the same rules. When you go to 0, this is where the game gets ugly. There's no dying saves. There's no, 2 out of 3 saves and you're okay. No. You go down, you're meat food, you're kissing the dirt, you're done. The good part is, after the combat, if one of your players can get to you and makes a successful medicine check, or has a healing potion, or perhaps they have healing magic, and it works, and they're able to heal you, you're great. But if they can't, you have to make a con save, and if it's real simple, you either succeed and you live, or you fail and you die. That's it. It's done. Game over. Make a new character. So it gives me that feel of there's a little grimdark in here, but it's very forgiving, because, like I said, you can take a bunch of short rest, as much as you want. There's a mechanic for it, and how many that you can take, and there's diminishing returns the more you take. So you can't just sit there and spam all these short rests, but I mean, they're beneficial and needed, and you should use them if you need to, but they're not going to let you just kick back. If that's the case, then you're going to take a long rest and you're going to be out for a couple of weeks. You may not have that kind of time, especially if you're in a dungeon or you're in enemy territory or something like that. So it forces the players to think, and not, you can't rely on magic, which is great. Magic is there. It is helpful, but it is not the end-all, be-all, and it is super rare. So I personally would only allow one player to be a magic user or a divine caster. I wouldn't allow both in the game. So that's just me. And that's if a party of 4. If I had a party of 6, I might allow a divine caster. But if I had a 4-man gaming group plus me as the GM, I would only allow one player to be a magic user, period. And it would either be a magic user or a caster. You can't have both. but that's just me. But guys, there is a ton of options in here. The book is laid out really well. It's very clear and concise, in my opinion. The options and the latitude that it gives you with the OGL is amazing. This is, to me, this is my answer to 5th edition D&D. I don't like to GM 5th edition D&D. So in this case, this would be the game that if people said, oh, I want to play D&D, I would go, oh, I've got something better. We're going to break out low fantasy gaming and then see how they go. So I'm going to try to break this, bust this out from my gaming group, my Pathfinder fantasy guys. I'm going to make some pre-gens, make them like first level, maybe second level, just to be, maybe third level to give them that feat and let them go a different way or whatever. Hit dice. Oh, I'm sorry. That's one thing I didn't cover is your hit die for characters. It's pretty cool. Once you hit a certain level, it can be, I think it's 9th level for all of the party. I'm not quite sure. It's 7th or 9th. You stop rolling for hit points, and now you just get 1 per level. So you're not going to have these astronomical, you're not going to have a fighter with 200 hit points, which I like. I don't want to, it shouldn't be a game of attrition. You shouldn't be sitting there trying to whittle your players down so that now you can make it challenging for them when they fight the great black dragon. Hit points are a very limited resource, and magical healing is extremely limited. So you have to plan accordingly. You can't just go kick in the door and kill all the goblins, because those goblins could F you up. And now you're in a world of hurt, because especially if there's no magic or divine caster in the group, and you don't have any healing potions, because again, magic's kind of rare. That's why it's called low fantasy gaming. It can come and get you. There's not a default setting in this book. It's assumed that you're going to pick up their, I forgot what it's called. Here, give me a second. It's in here. They make reference to it. Midlands. I guess they have a book or a PDF out for the Midlands setting, sandbox setting. It's called Midlands Low Magic Sandbox Setting. It published in 2017. Is a low magic points of light medieval fantasy written for low fantasy gaming. An outline for the main theme is set out below, and it goes in to tell you what that setting is. And then what's really nice is they tell you other settings: Conan, Westeros, Primeval Thule, Lands of Legend, Birthright. I love that they mentioned Birthright in here. That makes me happy. Lankmar, Warhammer's Old World, the Ice Kingdom, and Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings. So obviously some very tropic topics of fantasy gaming that they mention. There's also a spell name converter. So if you know what the D&D name for hold monster is, a Crush of the Warp is what it's called in low fantasy gaming. Let's see, what's a good one? Charm monster is monstrous subjugation. So they've changed all the name of the spells because, again, they don't want it to be D&D. They want it to be like D&D, and I like that. So let's see. Magic Missile is Lash of the Unerring Pain. Great name. So they're giving you these very thematic, very flavorful names for the spells, so you don't say, oh, I cast Magic Missile. No, I cast Lash of the Unerring Pain, and these black tendrils whip out and smash into the target, causing, unerring pain, and then you roll your damage. So, guys, great setting. I highly recommend it. I think it's really cool. I can't wait to get this to the gaming table and run it for my guys. I think they're going to like it. I think this is gritty and dark that they're going to actually enjoy it. And I wanted to get this review out before I went on vacation, because like I said, I'm not going to have any videos out for 2 weeks. And I thought about recording a bunch of stuff and holding it, and then getting on my laptop and, like, say, the middle of next week and posting one of them. And I thought, no, that defeats the purpose of unplugging for the week. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to get out a decent amount of content between now and Friday, and then go from there. So before I start rambling, which I am wont to do, this is the end of the review. This is a buy in Mr. Mean's book, Low Fantasy Gaming from Pickpocket Press. It's available on Drive-Thru RPG. You can also buy it directly off their website, which is at the bottom of the video here, lowfantasygaming.com. But we'll go into my my shout outs and everything. So that's the end of the video. If you don't want to see the shout outs or anything, you can stop watching now. So thank you very much. All right, so for shout-outs and everything, first off, I want to give a shout-out to these guys. They were amazing. They've done a great job. This is an awesome product. I can't wait to see what Low Life 2090 looks like. As always, I'm on MeWe. I'm on Discord. I have a very active Discord community. Please jump over there. I will be still participating in the Discord while I'm on vacation because I have Discord on my cell phone and I'm taking my cell phone with me. So I will be able to participate that way, but I won't be doing a whole lot. Remember, the whole point is to decompress and get away and spend time with family, which is the whole point of it. And maybe even get some gaming in with some of my friends. So I'm on Discord, I'm on MeWe, social media. There's a link on my YouTube homepage. I'm on Patreon, $5 a month, gets you into videos and chats with designers, gameplay, copies of rule books and stuff like that. I just ran Delve, second edition for Feral Games Inc., the creator of the game. He actually got to play, which was pretty cool. He's never played the game. And in 3 more of my subscribers on my Discord channel. So, and I believe one of them was a Patreon. So that's even better. So yeah, we do all that kind of fun stuff. And Jay over at Feral Games Inc. was nice enough to give everybody a free copy of the game, which was uber cool. So the cool things like that happen on the channel. Once a month, I try to do a episode called That Game, and I didn't do one for this month just because it's been kind of chaotic, but hopefully next month in December. I don't have any games. My gaming group is on hiatus, even though we're playing virtually. December is a hard month to schedule anything with people's family coming in and out of town and things like that. So I take the whole month of December off, kind of recharge the batteries, make some notes, think about where I want my game to go, and then we come back after the holidays refreshed and vibrant and ready to go. So yeah, so that's one of the things. But I'll try to get out of that game for December. I didn't do one for November, but I usually have like 1 or 2 of the guys from indie game design. It's Never Dark Enough, the guys that made the super awesome RPG Shattered. So shout out to those guys. But normally I get nk.zip or one of those guys to come on and we talk about just one game. I usually have 3 to 4 people on the show, and we talk about one game for each of us that has influenced us in some way, shape, or form. And it's very evocative and kind of cool to see, what makes your brain tick and stuff like that. And of course, the Patreon gets you access to all of that. I didn't want to put any of my videos behind a paywall. Patreon, I keep it simple. It's $5 a month. It's affordable for you, and it helps me out, helps the channel out. You get a special color designation. I think it's like a neon blue on the Discord channel, so everybody knows that you're a Patreon in the Mr. Mean Army. So yeah, if you can afford it and you like the content and you like the, maybe you don't like the content, but you like the Discord channel, the Patreon support is super awesome because it would get you some other stuff there. So that's really helpful. I'm on PayPal Pay Me. Like I said, there's a link in the doobly-doo, and there's a link on my channel, on my YouTube channel. And that's really about it, guys. I do this for you guys, and I really enjoy it. I got a bunch of new subscribers, and we've done some great things. I got some other reviews coming. I got Chivalry and Sorcery coming after the holidays. I've got Black Void coming. They just did a successful Kickstarter for Nebulous of Time, I think it's called. Which I did back, so I'll be getting a copy of that. I did an interview with Christopher from from Black Void. Super awesome guy to talk with. I just did a review last night of Seeds of Wars and their new book that they did do a Kickstarter on it, which I thought was pretty cool. This is realm management. So if you didn't see that video, go check it. I posted it yesterday. They also have a Kickstarter going on right now for their web app that's going to be on their web that you could use on like a tablet or an iPad or whatever. And it's for basically realm management. I highly recommend it if you're one of those GMs that's really into, creating your world and all the nuances of like magic and taxes and border disputes and everything like espionage. And this is this world map, and you can reconfigure the map, you can reset the areas, you can rename it, or you can use their default campaign, which is I think it's Ceres, 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 depending on you. I'm from Brooklyn, so I don't pronounce anything right, but cool stuff. Go check it out, seedsofwars.com. And they also have a Kickstarter, so go check that out. I did a kind of just a generic overview because I just got the book, but I wanted to get something up there because I knew I was going out on vacation and I wanted to have a chance to. They were nice enough to send the book to me, so really appreciate it. And the flip side, if you are a publisher or a game designer and you want me to review your product or look at it, feel free to send me a copy. You can contact me on my Discord or through my email, jpolak@gmail.com, and I'll send you my address, and you can feel free to send me a copy or send me a PDF if that's within your budget, and I'll definitely give it a look. Just for the most part, I don't let the designers influence my opinion. I give you my opinion of what I think it is and if it's good or not. Luckily, we're living in a golden age of RPGs, and there's not too much garbage out there, at least not that I've seen. I'm sure there is. None of it's come my way, which is really awesome. But definitely jump on that Discord channel and talk about it. Talk about the games you're playing. I love to hear about it. I also just got the PDF of Cyberpunk 2077. So I want to run a game of that and also do a review of it once I get the physical book in. So a lot of stuff coming up, guys. A lot of stuff coming up on the channel. So like and subscribe. Tell your friends. All that fun stuff. And as always, guys, right now in this time, patience, good demeanor, and positivity is going to go a long way. Wear your mask out in public. I know some people don't believe in them, or they're claustrophobic, whatever. Suck it up. Wear your mask. You're wearing it for everybody around you, not for you. So try to wear that mask. Let's be safe, and let's get over this crazy thing so we can all get back to gaming in person and have fun times around the table. So as always, like and subscribe. Peace and hair grease. And remember, Mr. Mean says, be nice.